Recorded live.
Hello, my name is Kevin Tilsner, and this is Zeitgeist Philadelphia Radio here on TalkShoe.com at call ID number 91812. We are here with Daniel Kluko, the Green
Spirit Farms.
Thank you. Green Spirit Farms Research and Development Manager. Specifically, this is right outside Scranton in Lackawanna County. It's going to be the largest vertical farm ever at this point. And could you tell us a little bit about that project, just to give us before we dive into the deep end about it? Could you just give us a base concept as to what's going on?
Yeah, sure. Basically, Green Spirit Farms was started in 2011 by myself, Ben Wiggins, our farm manager, and Mylan Kluko, the president. And what we strived to achieve was to find a way to get nutritious food to people quicker, using less energy, less time, and instead of shipping the food across country, kind of grow the food where the people are. And that was kind of one of the reasons Philadelphia or Pennsylvania really sparked our interest, is that's roughly 1/3 of the population is on the East Coast. So what we try to do is go into underpurposed or abandoned buildings, warehouses specifically, and repurpose them for vertical farming. So in East Benton, which is where the farm would be located, when it's complete, is kind of an ideal location for us, and we plan on growing about 17 million plants in that one building when it's all said and done. And the building used to be owned by Dow Corning, I believe, and they went out of business about 12 years ago. And it's an amazing building. I mean, there's a lot of infrastructure that was put into it, and nothing really happened with it. So this building's been sitting there for 12 years. No one's been doing anything with it. It's just been collecting dust. And we heard about it through a mutual friend, checked it out, went down there, fit our needs almost perfectly. So we decided that's where we wanted to start our second vertical farm. The way that we do the farming is a system we call VGS, which is a vertical growing system. That's what the acronym stands for. Basically, it's water underneath with tiers of trays, plants that are on foam board, and water nutrient delivery that's given to those trays that the plants are on. We use a special kind of light called an induction lamp to give the plants everything they need light-wise. It's ran a specific amount of hours per day depending on the crop, and we can get increased, just astronomical yields from all the crops we grow in such a small space. I mean, we're looking at about 50 heads of lettuce a square foot, and really making sure it's nutritious and it's getting to people the next day after we harvest or the same day. I mean, that's a really big factor in nutrition, and we just strive to achieve the sustainable fashion to grow plants and a good product, which is what we have.
Thank you for going into that. How did you get involved in all of this in the first place? What led into your interest in all of this? What's your background in sustainability? What sparked your interest in it all? You go back that far, if you don't mind.
Yeah, that's fine. It's kind of funny that I'm on this show and you asked me that question, because the first time I heard about vertical farming, it was from watching the Zeitgeist documentary with Jacques Fresco with the Venus Project was on it. And I love the concepts, and I was just enthralled completely. And I delved into anything I could find on vertical farming, on hydroponics, on new technology, how to do things better. I actually went down to Venus, Florida about 5 years ago, and I went on the tour with Jacques Fresco and Roxanne Meadows. It was very enlightening because I recognize the problems that we have as far as feeding people. There's a lot of people throughout the world that can't get food in every country. It's not just the third world countries. There's a lot of people in cities here that can't get food. I'm in Michigan, and Detroit is technically a food desert. People can't go to a supermarket to get food. I mean, most people get their food from a gas station in certain parts of Detroit. So that was an inspiration to me, was to bring healthy food to people in a sustainable fashion, is something that I believe is a necessity for the future going forward, kind of as a human race. Farming is the biggest form of pollutants in our world today, the biggest cause of deforestation in our world today. Actually, the deforestation from traditional farming is equivalent to all carbon emissions from all land vehicles on the planet. And I just feel like there's a better way for us to do it. And, the Venus Project was a huge spark. And my father, Kluko, owns a environmental engineering company called Fountainhead Engineering. So we were always in the sustainable field and sector. We just kind of took what we knew from sustainability and applied it to vertical farming. And that's pretty much the basics. But it was, ironically, Jacques Fresco really got me, introduced me to it and got me interested in the concept.
Wow, that's really interesting. So, that would be Zeitgeist Addendum specifically then? Was that the first one you'd seen? Right on?
Yes.
That's awesome. And now you've taken that idea and apparently we're able to use our current economic system to still actually bring forth these emerging concepts.
Yeah, and that's really something that couldn't have been done 10 years ago. It wouldn't have been possible. The technology to do it wasn't in place. So that was the first thing we realized is, we can grow vegetables indoors, but can we do it profitably and sustainably and be a sustainable business? And in order to do that, we need profits. So we cut out a lot of the things that come with traditional farming, tractors, trucks, those sorts of things. And instead we spent it on mostly just growing equipment. And the big way that we're able to be a sustainable business is that we recycle 98% of our water. We're on carbon neutral energy, so there's more carbon emissions coming from our plant where we are now because we're on nuclear power. And the light technology we use has really allowed us to bring this to fruition, no pun intended. So 10 years ago, you would have been using metal halide lights that are huge power hogs. You wouldn't be able to go vertical, and it wasn't possible. And a lot of vertical farming then was focused more on architecture than it really was on the process and the engineering. And that's some of the things that you'll see too in the Venus Project. Is a lot of great architecture, and the gardens on rooftops I'm still all for. I still think that's amazing. But really, the lighting technology, the nutrient delivery systems, the way we can automate it is something that allows us to be a profitable business in today's society.
Right on. Can you describe a little bit of that? I was just really it went over the top for me when you were when I was reading about it. Let's see, it was in the New Scientist. .com article, and they talked about the farming from afar, and that just takes it over the top for me because there's basically an app for that, or at least you guys are in development of it, correct?
Yeah, it is in development, and it sounds cooler than it is. But basically, the systems that we use, the nutrient delivery system, the nutrients are all in the water. It's a hydroponic system. So there's certain things that need to be injected into the water to make sure that the plants are healthy all the time. So the pH has to be correct, the EC has to be correct, and the right ratio of nutrients, nitrogen to phosphorus to potassium, all has to be constant to achieve the same yields and, a constant supply and consistency. So the systems to do that are already in place. So the systems to deliver the nutrients to the plants effectively are already in place, and that's been around for 20 years. What we just thought about doing was, what happens if something happens at the farm and no one's there, or someone who is sick and they can't figure out what to do with this or that, so on and so forth. So we wanted to make sure that we could manage the nutrient delivery system from a smartphone, basically make an app, so that we can change the lights, the light intensity, the amount of time the lights are on. We can adjust the nutrients from our phones, when to deliver them, adjust the pH, the EC, and that is just more for peace of mind than actual application. It should be running fine when it's there, but if I know that something needs to be done, I can do it as long as I have Wi-Fi or 4G. And that's, it's just another way to make sure that everything's running smoothly.
Have you thought anything about the future of this? Because when I first saw this idea of vertical farming as well in these films, it instantly came to mind that, like, on both sides of the political spectrum, you've got like your conservatives that sometimes don't really want to pay into the system so as to give it to quote unquote people who aren't doing anything, like people with food stamps and so on. But then you've got the problem of you've got all these people that would starve, which is part of the issue from the left side. And this kind of solves that concept if you would put them into areas that are the most poor, and there are already places where there are, as you'd put it, warehouses that are like dilapidated or whatever, or just not being used, and then can be converted into these types of ideas and taken forward. The food could literally be given out like right there in like the middle of a ghetto, so that like people are taken care of, and it would solve a lot of those fiscal issues on a political level, as well as on just making a sustainable dent into the problems of poverty in our world.
Yeah, and I hope that would be that's a possibility, and that's one of my goals, is to make sure everyone's fed. It would be easier if we didn't have to make money, but we do have to make money because we still live in a capitalist society. So in order for us to do that, we have to be profitable. But a lot of what we do is give back to the community, and we started small in that when we were growing. But from day one, we were giving back. We had events people could come and eat for free at our farm. We worked with the state of Michigan, delivering free food trucks to people that couldn't afford it. We did a lot of things with schools and education, teaching kids about plants, teaching kids about where the food comes from, food safety, and what it all means. And I hope that we can provide food for everyone that needs it. And I hope that, obviously we're creating jobs, so the right would be happy about that. Right
on. It was almost 100 jobs, it said?
Yeah, right, 101 jobs. And that's for the first phase. That's not complete build-out. That's for about half built out of the farm in Pennsylvania. So 100 jobs there. We have about 20 or 30 here in Michigan, where the first farm was or is. And as long as we can continue to grow as a company and keep making jobs, then from the political aspect of the right, they're happy, and we're already trying to give back to the community and find ways to get food to people that can't afford it. Not just in this country, but other countries, and not just give the food to people, but also teach them how to get their own food using technology we've developed. So give them the tools that they need to sustain their own way of farming wherever they are. And that's going to be different, in different parts of the country. And that's something that we work on as well through a non-for-profit that we developed called the Earth Campus. So we're trying not just to give food to people, but give people the ability to create their own food using kind of some technology that we've developed.
Right on. Could you describe a little bit
from our profit? Pardon?
Could you describe a little bit more of that nonprofit? I'd like to hear a little bit more about the ideas of it. Essentially, I'm actually in a class right now where I'm taking on Coursera.com, and it allows me to allowed me to take this 14-week course called The Age of Sustainable Development, and it's the guy's name is Jeffrey Sachs, who's running it, and he, as a professor, he's not just a professor, he's also really knows a lot of people within the UN, and he's trying to do these different projects in like these different eco villages, sustainable villages in like sub-Saharan Africa as well. And I advertised the show in that class's Facebook group. So anything that you could tell about that nonprofit might get discussed within that community, and I would like to hear that idea spread. Sure. So if you could please mention it, I'd appreciate it.
Right now, most of what we do as a nonprofit is locally in Michigan. So we do a lot of work in Michigan with the schools in the community, and also low-income individuals that need food. What we want to do down the road is to provide food to almost everybody. And let's talk about Africa for a second. So the thing in Africa is the water. The water is really, really bad. I mean, a lot of people are drinking water that they shouldn't be drinking. So the first step that we have to do is find a way to get a technology that can be ran either on solar or man-powered, like a hand crank system to purify the water. That would be the first step. And then we need to find a way to generate electricity in a clean fashion to power, growing lights or a growing system for nutrient delivery. If you can't use the soil, then you have to do it hydroponics. So clean water to drink, clean water to feed the plants, and then a way to generate electricity either with solar panel or geothermal or rechargeable batteries. We've been thinking about creating a grid of batteries that are kind of linked up to a large solar field, so that instead of having a solar panel in this place or that place, you have all the solar panels in the best place to get the light, and then instead of distributing the solar panels, you distribute the electricity. And that would be one way to do it. But that's something that would be down the road. It's nothing that we implemented yet. It's just something that we're working on. And obviously, we would need a lot of help from governments. People aren't just going to let us come in and start dropping solar panels everywhere. So that's kind of the idea.
Well, you'd at least need the permissions. You wouldn't necessarily need their help if you had the resources available to you, or were able to get that sort of funding through, like the right organizations.
Right, and then the last step would be the training, creating giving education to the people to use the systems. You can't just give a guy a guitar and expect to get a symphony out of him. You got to show him how to use it. So once the infrastructure is in place, then we educate the individuals how to use it, and then let them go with it. Hopefully teach someone and have someone in charge of it, and find a good way to distribute it, and create a network and a community, and a way to feed people and get people healthy and able to live.
Yeah. And it really would be that easy for them in a community like that, just as long as they had an access to even a little bit of water, because you were saying that once you got the whole system set up, it only uses about 98% and that's of what we need now. Like could you describe that water situation? Because I know that like you can't just drop one of these things out in the desert yet. We're still not there technologically, but clearly that's like, it seems like the direction that you're heading. Like you might be able to do this in another decade or two, in theory.
Yeah, and we would have to compartmentalize it. Put it on a smaller scale, which is actually a lot easier than doing it on a large scale. But back to the 98% water. So we use 98% less water than traditional soil farming. Take those numbers from California. They use a lot of water. So for an example, Arizona uses like 20 gallons of water per head of lettuce. We use 0.3 gallons of water per head of lettuce. So we're using less water just off the bat. The reason is when you use water outside of water plants, the majority of it goes past the root zone and into the groundwater. The plants don't get it all because the soil can't absorb all the water. And that can lead to problems in the environment because if you're fertilizing in the soil or spraying pesticides or herbicides in the soil, and then you water your crops with irrigation lines, and the majority of that water goes into the groundwater, you're also taking with you all those fertilizers, herbicides, and pesticides going into the groundwater, going to lakes, rivers, and streams, and then killing ecosystems, fish, etc. So
yeah, from like algae blooms and such, right?
Yeah, precisely. Yeah, and that's something that we shouldn't do because the best land that we have, we're destroying by farming it over and over and over and over again. So doing it indoors, we save the environment that way, and we use a lot less water. And water is the new oil. We hit peak oil several years ago, and we all know how that's turned out for us, at least here. The same thing is going to happen with water. It's actually already happening in California, and it has been for a while, but it's getting more serious every year. And they're in extreme drought conditions right now. So there's people in the East Coast in Pennsylvania that can't even get food from California in the supermarkets because of all these terrible weather conditions. So we recycle all our water. I mean, everything that's we don't put any water down the drain. It's either transpired by the plant through evapotranspiration as the plant lives, or it's recycled to feed to more plants. And we do that through a reverse osmosis system. So when we're done with our nutrient water, we filter it out through a system, and then we feed it back to the plants. We create pure water from what was once plant water, the nutrient water. And that's the big way that we minimize our water usage. And I really think probably the most water we use is that isn't recycled is through cleaning the floors, cleaning tables, everything. So that's a huge thing for us. I mean, there's Lagunitas is a brewery out in California, and I read an article just yesterday that they possibly within the next year or two will not be able to use fresh water, surface water, to brew any of their beers. They're going to have to get groundwater, which is very alkaline. So, they were saying their beers wouldn't taste well. But that's just, there's bigger issues in beer. But that's how it's affecting us today here. And it's the same thing that happened in Russia decades ago, or not Russia, but Kazakhstan, where the Russians wanted to, they were farming cotton for uniforms. I think it was for World War II. And there's this huge lake in Kazakhstan. It was one of the biggest lakes in the world. And they dammed it and made two rivers so they could do farming with all that water. And it ruined countless thousands of people's livelihood because the lake dried up. It was a fishing community. Now there's no fish, there's no water, there's no one to live there. It's basically a desert. So I think what we do as a company is good for the environment, unless everyone kind of wants to live in a desert eventually.
Yeah, that actually just happened in California. I just seen like a picture of this dam from like a few years back, and then how like the lake, like right after the dam was put up, and now it's just like almost a desert around this lake. It's like mostly dried up already. It was really
Yeah.
sad to see. I hate to say it. It was like they actually, the caption on it was literally like the California drought in one single snapshot, like these two pictures side by side, and it was not. It sounds like exactly the same situation you were just speaking of with
Yeah,
Russia
it definitely is.
Kazakhstan.
And it's nothing new. It's just we're becoming more aware of it as a society. And even the Hoover Dam is projected to stop producing electricity in 2015 or 16 because the water levels are drastically dropping. Part of it is because Las Vegas is drastically expanding, exponentially, and there's no water there. They have to take it from the Hoover Dam. So water is more precious than oil. We don't need oil to live, but we do need water. So we try to focus on being as sustainable with our water as possible. There's other ways to get electricity, solar power, wind power, geothermal energy, but there's not a lot of ways to just make water out of thin air efficiently.
You do, though, a little bit there, correct? Like to stop from, it helps with mold on the plants as well?
Yeah, that would be our dehumidification systems are a necessity for us. And we use the water through coalescing is what happens, how it works. And then the water we use to feed the plants, which it's not a lot of water, but, we might as well use it. It's good. And yeah, go ahead.
May I just ask a quick question? I know this is kind of silly, but you're essentially talking about like a evaporator, like this is kind of like what they used out in the desert in Star Wars, right? Like a moisture evaporator. They take it, what moisture there is out of the air, and it brings it into like.
Yeah, I mean, yeah, that's it. It takes the moisture out of the air to bring down the relative humidity. And that's something we need to grow. I mean, because plants require a specific humidity for ideal growth, and also too extreme high or too extreme low, you can get different kinds of molds on your plants. So growing indoors is all about control and making it as ideal for the plant as possible, and emulating things in nature also. So we need the dehumidification systems regardless. But it's a bonus that we get to use the water from that and feed it back to the plants.
Right on. It's so just, I don't know, I've always just been so fascinated by this, like ever since I first heard about it myself. So I really appreciate you describing all these different ideas. Yeah, somebody else said DDT isn't the answer in the chat room that's attached to the radio as well. So I want to mention that. You were speaking earlier about the use of pesticides and so on, and remember dry land.
We're pesticide free.
I'm not sure what dry land farming works is about. If the person in the chat room wants to go into a little bit more of that, they'd have to describe it. I'm sorry, but. What kind of yields do you get, and what kind of vegetables do you actually have cranking out of there? Like, and when specifically does it open? Let me ask you that first. Like you were saying, like I know it's slated to open in March specifically, and when are you ready to go?
Yeah, probably going to be a little later than March. Just things like this always, we tend to move quicker than most other people and government organizations. So probably expected to be open within 90 days once we get everything in place. And it won't be fully at full capacity. It'll be at about half capacity, a little less, 45%. But we have customers. We have people that want the product. We've want to bring lettuce to Weiss clamshells, and we also do Basil, lettuce is our biggest crop. We do basil, we do kale, strawberries, cherry tomatoes, hot peppers, sweet peppers, peas, all sorts of herbs, sage, lavender, oregano, and many different, almost an unlimited amount of crops. If someone wants something, we can grow it for them as long as we can make a profit to keep the business sustainable in itself. Besides coconuts and banana trees, there's not too much that we can't do.
So you can actually like almost customize whatever your customers' needs are?
Yeah, that's something we've done in the past. We've done that with a restaurant chain called Life, L-Y-F-E, Love Your Food Every Day. And their concept was to have all local foods in this chain restaurant have a different menu, have a lot of choice on the menu. If you want to go vegan, if you want to do vegetarian, if you want to do salmon, all these kinds of things. And they wanted a lot of specific things from us, and that's something that we did for them to provide what they needed, because they were hitting a real niche market with clean food, good food, get the food quick, affordable. So we've been working with them, and that's something I've done for them, as well as other customers in the past. And that's hydroponics. It's an unlimited way to do hydroponics. I really think there's no right or wrong way. Every way is different. As long as it works, that's all that matters.
Have you seen the thing on the internet about the guy? I think you can just type into Google or YouTube search like 1 million pounds of food on 3 acres of land. And I thought that was a really fascinating concept along those lines. It was definitely something that I was just like, wow, if you just then stack those 3 acres of land on top of each other, just keep going up and you've got something that you could really give out a lot of food from if you had that in an inner city.
Definitely. Yeah. That would definitely be ideal for a city scenario. And the cities are really the easiest places to go in and farm and get the food to people and know that your product can get out there and get in people's hands. The hard places would really be, the more remote locations. There's not really any more. There's not too many hard places, but underwater would be cool, and the moon would be cool.
Well, they are going to need these types of technologies if we ever plan on colonizing bases on Mars and so on and so forth. Without sustainable technologies, we're really not going anywhere. We're definitely going to be stuck on Earth.
Yeah, definitely. And I was reading too. I think there's some company. I think it's Mars-1.com, who they want to set up a colony on Mars. They're asking for 4 volunteers that'll go live on Mars forever and never come back, and try to do that. So obviously plants would play a huge part in that, because sustainable oxygen, you won't be able to bring enough oxygen tanks to Mars to survive that long, and you need food. So what better pairing than plants? The plants really made this world habitable for us as humans. So why not on another planet or underwater?
Right on. Is there anything else that you would like to specifically bring up that I haven't touched on that you think is almost some really cool aspects of the project that you found really fascinating? And I don't even care if somebody finds it boring or whatever. I really want to hear some of what you found interesting, even though, because I know myself, like I said, I feel like someone that's got like 3 heads when I started even talking about this stuff, because a lot of people are then like, oh no, what are you going to do? Like, what happens to all the delivery truck drivers that bring groceries to the grocery store? And then what about the clerks that have to sell those groceries? Like, how are they going to eat? And your ideas could really like cleave a hole into that niche in a lot of ways if expanded upon in a capitalist market. And I'm really kind of curious as to what are some of the nitty-gritty little things that you've really found that have just been like fun, that aren't really necessarily going to like shake the structure of things, or even actually maybe if you could even like talk about some of the things that could shake the structure of things as well, because these really are technologies that, like, once expanded upon, could alter our world radically to the point that it might actually make these capitalistic needs obsolete.
Right. Yeah. And that would be amazing. I think one of the good things that this project could bring to us in America is getting Monsanto out of our lives personally. Just the amount of pesticides that we're using outside is astronomical. Almost every farmer is spraying more than he needs just because he wants his crop. And it's something that I hope goes away. The pollution aspect of it of outdoor farming is terrible, and I hope we can find a better way, to just hopefully that, people should still be able to farm outside, but we need a way to do it better. I don't want to say everyone shouldn't farm outside. There's plenty of people that do it the right way. But it'd be nice to get more regulations in place, at least for that. And yeah, there's certain things I can't grow inside. Avocados wouldn't grow well in my system. So there's still a necessity for those farmers, for those truck drivers. Hopefully the truck drivers that are working for the large organic lettuce farms in California will just put in an application for Green Spirit Farms, and they'll still have their job. Everyone at the supermarkets will still. And as far as nitty-gritty, the funny thing I've had from this is the worst thing I've ran into is some organic. The whole organic thing is the worst thing I've ran into, shockingly. And I was naive when I first found out about what organic really was and what it meant. I thought organic meant no pesticides, no herbicides, that everything's clean, and it's not really the case. So we were trying to go organic in the beginning, and then we determined that it really wasn't a big factor for us. Because organic is really all about how you treat the soil to make sure the soil can still be worked the next year, and that you care for the soil in a good manner. And we don't use any soil. So we were trying to get organic certification using organic nutrients, vegan nutrients derived from other plants, And we just scrapped the whole organic project and went with sustainable because it wasn't that important to us. And the plants don't care what they're being fed. It actually takes longer for a plant to grow organically than it does inorganically, because the plants have to take the manure or the kelp or whatever you're feeding them, break it down into nitrogen, phosphorus, and potassium, which uses energy, and then uptake it so they can make more energy. Now, the way we do it, we just give them the nitrogen, phosphorus, and potassium right away, so they don't have to expend energy to get it, which causes increased yield and less time. But I think the best thing that I've learned from this project is I watched a documentary called The Secret Life of Plants. And I think it's on Netflix if anyone has Netflix and wants to watch it. But it is amazing. It's life-changing. It really connects people to plants. And I feel like that's something that, as a culture, that we've really been digressing from. The average age of the farmer is like 53. There's really not a lot of people who are young who are farming or who really know where their food comes from. and this documentary was just amazing. I mean, it talks about the consciousness of plants and what they can realize, and that's one of the things that we do at the farm is we make sure that people are really sound, are happy. You really don't want negative people working with plants or people that are angry, because the plants will pick up on that and it'll really decrease your yields. So we really try to keep a very nice, happy atmosphere, nice music for the plants and for the employees, keep everything really just nice.
Right on. No, I understand the idea of needing a pleasant working environment because let's put it this way, I've had food service jobs before and I've seen how they can devolve into a hostile working environment, and that definitely it doesn't help the process for sure. I've seen that as an issue, definitely. I do have a caller online, it would seem, from New York. I'm going to unmute that person and ask them if they'd like to join the conversation, ask Daniel Kluko here a question.
Well, I just started listening, so I would rather keep listening for the time being.
Oh,
but
no problem.
Thank you just the same.
Yeah, I can put you back on mute, or if you'd like.
No, you could put me back on mute. That's fine.
Okay, thank you.
All right, great.
Sorry about that. Thank you very much for all the new people that are joining us as we're going along here. We've got a few people that are paying attention, so thank you, listeners. I really appreciate it. And go ahead, Daniel. Thank you.
Yeah, no problem. Thank you. One thing I wanted to mention, too, is the lighting that we use. It's called induction lighting. It was invented in 1891 by Nikola Tesla, and it is an electrodeless and a filamentless bulb. So there's no moving current through a filament that can break. There's no diode. Basically, it's a glass tube that is filled with argon gas, a noble gas, sealed, and then on the end of it is a solid-state mercury amalgam and two electromagnets on either side that create the light. That's been a big part of our success is the lighting and the technology behind it. It allows us to get different spectrums of light, and it's also a very cool lamp, and it lasts a long time. It lasts 100,000 burning hours. So if you were to run the lamp 24 hours a day, which we don't, it would last 10 years. The other big thing about this lamp is it's 100% recyclable. The magnets can be recycled, the glass can. Also, the mercury can be snapped off and sent back to the factory to make new lamps. So we're trying to keep it sustainable in that aspect. And the technology is amazing. Even though it was 1891, I hope we all know who Nikola Tesla is. It's the whole reason we have electricity in our houses today. And that's a big proponent of our success. This is interesting. I thought I'd like to share that with you. But we've
really great.
Every kind of light out there. Yeah.
We had done here in Philly. There's a Nikola Tesla Foundation that I was actually working with, and in 2011 we actually did like a whole awareness campaign where we were actually at Independence Hall and gave out a bunch of literature, as well as there were like lectures and stuff going on, and we even had DJs come out, so it was like a lot big fun environment, and someone had built a nice model of a Tesla coil. So
cool.
Yeah. There's definitely a lot of. I also like the fact that you were just speaking of keeping those ideas, like of that those light bulbs were completely like recyclable down to their last part, and that's like very forward thinking as well, because it keeps that whole process going where we can. It keeps that sustainable process going where we don't have to keep redrawing on on new resources and digging up our planet just to make more progressions. And
right.
Exactly. I find that really that's really honorable in that on that level. I really like it. These sorts of that sort of thought process definitely needs to be taken to the next level as well, because there's so much waste in our world. It's just ridiculous at some points when you think about it.
Oh, yeah. I mean, there's so much waste that there's people in countries that are living off of the waste of other countries. And it's to massive proportions, and the last thing that we want to do is create more waste. So we strive to make sure everything's recyclable. I mean, the racks that we use to build our systems are recycled and refurbished, and we sand them down and paint them. The buildings are repurposed. The lights are new but can be recycled again. The water's recycled. The growing medium's recycled. Any excess plant waste is composted and recycled. There's really not a lot that we don't recycle. I mean, the water, the foam boards we use are reused. The trays are reused. If there's ever a time where the tray breaks for any reason, which has never happened, but anything's possible, that's just plastic. We can recycle that. And that's really the aspect we came at it from was, well, we want to grow food indoors, but we want to do more than that. We want to make sure that it's good for the environment, as well as the food we grow is good for the people. And a lot of that really just comes from our beginnings in Fountainhead Engineering, and we kind of brought that over to this project.
Right on. That's, yeah. Again, these were all aspects that were discussed in the films as well, the Zeitgeist films as well. So if people haven't seen them, I highly recommend people check them out, and it'll bring up a lot of the concepts that we're talking about here today, and at least give you some more basic knowledge on top of like the in-depth ideas that he's speaking of at the moment. Where do you really see this going in the future?
Well, I hope to feed the world, and hope to be able to provide technology to sustain the planet and sustain us as people, and just keep everything clean. And really, outer space is there. We're not there yet, but that's definitely a possibility for this. I know Elon Musk, who is CEO of Tesla Motors. I think he's trying to do something with outer space colonies, maybe on the moon, or a low orbit hotel, something of that sort. And I really don't think that would be possible without plants. I mean, plants are so important. I mean, I can't even begin to explain how important they are to us, not just to eat, but just the fact that they're here allows us to be here. And that's just the symbiotic relationship of us and them is really something that's, almost spiritual to me.
I totally understand that. Yeah, I've always felt like the definition of spirituality was really just aligning yourself with what's really true and what's really going on in the world, with facts and so on, and in how we encounter nature. It's really important that we encounter nature correctly. I'd learned that from Michael Reynolds, the guy who created Earthships. He had a seminar here in Philly and was speaking about it. And he also takes like all these different things, like he recycles like old used tires and pounds the dirt into them and makes walls and out of them for the homes that are then created. And he actually has some ideas on how to he grows greenhouse, the greenhouses in those in the Earthships actually are able to grow banana trees in the desert. So one of the things that you were speaking of, he's already figured out. So we've got a lot of these things that could really just be merged together, and someday people could be eating your kale and his bananas, like those technology driven concepts taken to that level, like to the moon or Mars, so on.
Yeah, definitely. And I think the word co-opetition is important. Cooperative competition. We still live in a world where we need money. Still, it drives the world. So as a business trying to do these things, money is something you need, right? So we need to make money. But there's people that are doing the same thing as us, and they have maybe different ideas or different ways to do it that work great, and maybe we can help them and they can help us. And food is something people need. So it's important as the cost of food goes up, which it's going to, and it has been, that, we don't necessarily have to raise the costs of our produce just because the food cost is going up for outside produce. It's just like a utility company. Electrical company could raise the rates on your electricity where you live, and there's really not a lot you could do about it. I mean, unless you had a lot of capital to go buy, a small solar panel and some wind turbines, and even then, you'd probably still need electricity. So this is a necessity, and we want to treat it as a necessity and not gouge people's pockets for it. I mean, we have really tried to make it as affordable as possible for everyone.
Yeah, well, I mean, you kind of have to in today's business market anyways to remain competitive. So it's really great that you've been able to figure out a way to do that with these types of technologies.
Truly, yeah.
Yeah. How do you are there, and is there anything else that you want to add? Any types of like you'd already mentioned, like Secret Life of Plants and so on. And if you want to throw out any other ideas that you want people to know about, feel free to use this as another moment on the soapbox and throw out some of the great ideas that you've come across that maybe people haven't heard of yet.
Yeah, sure. I would definitely tell people to check out greenspiritfarms.com. If you have questions, send me an email. The email is on the website. Usually respond to you within a day or two. Also check out Indigrow, INDA-GRO.com, induction lights, very sustainable lights. Amazing things. If you're interested in the technology, they have a lot of information on the website that explains it. And then it's really cool. I nerd out on it. But besides that, there's a lot of information out there. I can't think of many things besides that I could give, and that I think your audience already knows. Zeitgeist and the Venus Project. I can't say enough about it. I love it.
Yeah. How about what was the nonprofit that you were speaking of earlier? Could you just re-mention the name of that again?
Yeah, that's called the Earth Campus. Earth Campus.
Great.
And that's where same building as we're in New Buffalo, Michigan, where the current farm is. One of them.
Are you going to be doing any campus work at the Scranton one as well? I just ask because I've got a 9-year-old. I would love up there and love to have him check it out and stuff because we talk about it and all the time. Oh yeah,
I'm definitely sure we will. And any time that we do anything like that, our Facebook page will be updated immediately. So to allow people to come out and be involved in that, definitely be on our Facebook page.
Cool. Thank you. It's great to hear. Okay. Is there anything other items that anyone else would like to mention? I'm seeing a couple things spoken about, John DeLorean. He apparently had a great idea of a lifetime, and that's now gone as well. Somebody was mentioning about. So. Yeah. Oh, and somebody mentioned something about dumping dyes on the day of on the Irish Day or something into the sea and something. I'm guessing that's a suggestion about.
Water.
Yeah,
dying water.
How we're not treating our planet correctly and our environment. So I just wanted to mention that from one of our audience members that's paying attention out there, but. Again, thank you, Daniel.
Yeah, sure. Yeah, definitely. And I appreciate you having me on, and hopefully, you can have me on again, maybe down the road once we start doing more with Green Spirit Farms.
That would be great. Yeah, I've got other people that I know that do these sorts of things. I don't want to necessarily talk about it on the air because I don't want you to be under any business pressure or anything. But to be honest, there are other people that I know through the Zeitgeist movement in other parts of the world, like a guy down in Florida and such. I'd love to just put you in contact with, or at least let you know that each other exists, and you never know how you guys might be able to take things off.
Yeah. Definitely. I'm open to all conversations.
Okay.
Can learn something from everyone you meet in life. So, yeah, the more I can talk to anyone, the better.
Right on. Thank you again for coming on and talking about these amazing sustainable ideas and how we can all progress and move forward. It's really been educational on a lot of levels. Because originally, when I first heard about this, somebody had mentioned it to me on the fact that I'd read the article the first time, and I'd almost made a joke about it. I was just like, until you had actually mentioned earlier in the show that this was already a pre-built building, and I was actually joking about, this is a vertical farm. It's only like one floor, and I was just like, okay, well now I understand. The building was already it was already there, and you were repurposing it, and that's really great in and of itself. But I just thought it was amusing that, what is the other one in Michigan? How many floors is that? I'm just curious.
It's one floor, but what we do is we tier our system. So our system is 20 feet high, So it's it's several tiers of plants, water, and lights stacked on top of each other.
Oh, that's almost 2 stories tall right there.
Yeah, and we can go taller. The only thing that limits us is the building height.
Right.
Because we're 20-foot ceilings here, so we're up to the ceilings here. And the building here is actually repurposed. It was abandoned for 12 years. It's a really small town. 2,300 people live in this town. And the building that we're in now in New Buffalo, it was the main staple. I mean, almost everyone in the town worked at this building. It was a plastic injection mold facility. And it shut down, and a lot of people were out of jobs. And, 12 years later, we come in, and now we're creating those jobs in the same building that once was such a big staple of this town.
Right on. That's great to hear that you can help in such a capacity, because I've heard about a lot of different problems out in the Midwest with people, businesses going out because of larger businesses having taken over. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, the good thing is there's no shortage of people that need food. It's for us, and we feel, and I know that we create a really good product. I mean, I wish I could give some to you so I could get some reactions of you on the phone, but I'll have to ship some to you from East Benton when it's all said and done. Because it's fantastic, and it's extremely nutritious. We've done nutritional analysis, and we're at or higher in nutritional levels than outside organic produce, and we're also extremely low in the sodium. Outdoor produce has a lot of sodium in it because of the chlorine is used to clean the soil, and it's in the water, and it builds up over time in the soil. So anything that's in the soil, the plants are uptaking. So we make a good product, and so do other people, but we just try to get it in the hands of the consumers quicker, because that's really where the nutritional aspect comes in. It doesn't matter really if it was grown outside or if it was grown inside, but if it takes 5 days to get this tomato on your plate from outside farmers, where it takes 1 day from us, it's more nutritional.
Yeah, it's definitely fresher. Yeah, for sure.
Yeah, and it tastes better, which is a big thing. If it tasted bad, no one would want it. So.
Right. Again, thank you. I can't thank you enough. This is really amazing. I can't wait to share this conversation with my son so that he can learn from it as well. So I really appreciate it.
Yeah, thank you, Kevin. I appreciate it.
Yeah, have a great day. And
You too.
Is there, unless there's something else that you had you'd like to throw out there?
I think I'm pretty good. Just I appreciate what you're doing, and I've watched the Zeitgeist movement progress since it started, and just big on the Venus Project and everything that we're trying to do, and hopefully we can, as we can become more conscious of the problems in this world, that all of us as a whole can work together and create a better world for us and for our children, because we don't inherit the world from our grandfathers. We give it to our children, so we got to make sure that it's better than when we got it.
Right on, exactly. I just want to throw out there that there's also zdayglobal.org as well. Please check that out. There's going to be a few things coming up. March 15th is Z-Day, Zeitgeist Day. It's a lot of showings of the movies around the world that people are doing, as well as other entertainment to go along with it, to try and just get these ideas out there and help people learn and grow. So we've been a little slow as of late in Philadelphia. We haven't been as charged in getting things out there as we once were. So we're also trying to get our chapter back together again and start getting the ball rolling. So please, if you've listened to this and would like to join, please check out the Zeitgeist movement, as well as tzmpa.com, and that'll get you onto a website and allow you to take part in social networking as well there. So again, thanks, Daniel. I can't say how much I appreciate this. Nice to be able to nerd out for an afternoon on on a subject I really dig.
Yeah, anytime. It was my pleasure. Thanks again.
Thank you. Have a great day.
You too. Bye.